welcome back. Now we're going to our first round of questioning, and we begin with the candidate of the ACPN. The office of the Vice President is often seen as that of a spare role to the office of the President. Do you think the office needs more responsibilities, or is okay as it is defined in the Constitution, the Nigerian 1999 Constitution, as amended?
I have not seen the office of the Vice President as a spare tire, because it is the same constitution, it is the same qualification that the president of our country, must have, that the vice president must have. And besides, roles were specified for both the president and the vice president. And don't forget, if the president is not around, it is the vice president that took over. And I want to tell you, to know how important the office of the president is, that it is not inferior to the presidency, is that if the vice president of our country takes any decision as acting president, the president of a country cannot legally go against that action. I remember when our president was away for some time, the president acted, and all decisions that were taken by him as acting president of this country were never controverted by the president. So the vice president of this country is just like the office of the president. They have the same status, although one is higher, but none is inferior to the other.
Thank you very much. Candidate of the ANN. Should you win this forthcoming election, you will be the first female vice president of Nigeria. How prepared are you for that role and the responsibilities that come with it?
Thank you for the opportunity to be here. Being a nation builder sticks from the heart. Somebody that builds a human being, that starts from the human development. So having to take the position of a vice president is not something that should be taken lightly, because a nation builder is that person who sees a problem and resolves it. Our party is well known for what it stands for. We're not talking about, we're not the politicians of the usual days that promises this and that. So what we are going to do is to ensure that every policies that have been taken collectively as a party will be implemented effectively. We have shared values, we understand what the policies are, we understand what the issues are, which issues who goes to the roots of humanity. That is what we stand for. We stand for humanity and community development. So being a vice president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria is an office which must be taken seriously. It's an office which participates in all the cabinet meetings at office, which is about the economic development of, which handles the issues of economy. So what we are trying to do in our party is to ensure that the economy is diversified, the economy is vibrant enough to stop the too much dependency on a mono economy that we were used to ensure that every aspect of the 774 local governments that we have in Nigeria is upgraded to a commercial hub, where every resource, every mineral resources would be enhanced and upgraded, where would ensure that the issue of unemployment and every other issue that affects our economy right now will be well taken care of. So it is not an office that should be taken for granted. And as I stand, because of my background in humanitarian services and issues, and as a mother, we're used to a country who put politics before economics. In our party, we are putting economics before politics, because economics is the driving force. We're doing agriculture. We're talking about the diversification of agriculture, which this administration has already been doing. But what we'll do is much more than what this administration
Thank you
is
very
doing.
much.
Yes.
Thank you. Candidate of the APC, you have been vice president for the past 3.5 years, almost 3.5 years. How tasking has this role and responsibility been for you?
Thank you very much. First, I'm sure that those who know me quite well know that my hair was not this gray when I started out in 2015. So really, it has been tasking. It has been tasking, but it has also been an incredibly rewarding experience, especially from the point of view of the ability to do the things that one wanted to do all along as an individual. But the role is one where you are, in many senses, the chief advisor to the president of the country, and possibly the one person that will represent him, even just when he's absent for a meeting, as opposed to even when he's absent for longer periods. So there is a sense in which the role of the vice president is one that very closely mirrors the role of the president in very profound ways. But our vice presidency is different from the vice presidency of other countries, because unlike other countries, even countries that have similar constitutions, our own constitution actually specifies roles for the vice president. So the vice president is the chairman of the National Economic Council. That is the council that's a council where all of the governors of the states meet every once in a month, and the vice president chairs that. That's a constitutional role. Aside from that, the vice president is also the chairman of the NCP, that's the National Council on Privatization. The vice president is also statutory chairman of about 22 different parastatals and agencies. And these are all defined by law. So in some senses, I mean, those who say, for example, that the vice presidential, or the role of the vice president is spare tire, have it wrong, because they probably are looking at other jurisdictions. In our jurisdiction, there are very specific rules that the vice president is entitled or is empowered by law to perform. But I think that one of the more interesting things about that role also is the fact that still a lot depends on the trust that exists between the president and the vice president, because the president does delegate several of his roles, and he can delegate those roles depending, of course, on how on the kind of trust that exists between both parties. So many times also that role is one where a good degree of trust is required between the two players, namely the president and the vice president. Where that trust exists, I think there is plenty of room for activity for the vice president. There's plenty that the vice president can do. And finally, I think that the role of the vice president, is one which also requires, I think a great deal of patience, because you may not always agree. You may not always agree with policy. You may not always agree with the various aspects of what is being done. You may not always
Thank you very much. Thank you. Time is up.